You mark your fiction books?
Yes.
Wow, I'm surprised Martin doesn't mark his fiction books.
It's not. I mean, if there's a great quote or something.
You don't have to mark
I would never mark anything in Michael Connelly.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Aboud, and you have the core four with you today, Paul, Tanya, and Martin. We're back after a long weekend. Everybody feel rested?
Yes, and so glad school's out.
I know.
Yes, the last 3 weeks before school's out is really hectic for me, trying to get them the things they need for the summer. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going back to my Memoria Press job, which is easier.
But over the weekend, you really didn't have a break. You got...
Oh, I had to read Martin's essays. Mm-hmm. Yes. So when you ask
what... It was intellectually invigorating for her.
Mm-hmm. We have a deadline on them because we want them to be available at the conference, so they have to go to the printer.
So you really are in hyperspeed.
Yes, we are in hyperspeed. I mean, it was an emergency, or believe me, I would not have spent the long weekend with Martin.
Yeah. Well, I've had to make it easier for her by writing very clearly and,
I have some notes. We're going to talk. We're going to chat this afternoon.
To be a fly on the wall. Well, have you gotten any reading time in?
I've been listening to Daphne du Maurier's After Midnight, her collection of short stories.
Oh.
And I did not realize, I started listening this morning actually to The Birds. Hitchcock's The Birds was based on her story. Yeah. I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And it makes so much more sense now about, as a kid, I don't know, Hitchcock just enthralled me. And so now I know why I probably like Daphne du Maurier more.
Interesting.
Because that's what he was basing his stories off of. And they're phenomenal. Yeah, I was telling Tanya one the other day because she's appalled anytime I'm reading these stories.
I just don't like
Rebecca. Or you didn't like.
I did not like.
Or is it Rebecca?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
then
another
he
one.
read Rachel.
My cousin Rachel.
Yes.
My cousin Rachel.
But now, I mean, there's more. There's more. And she has a way of getting like in the head of somebody and having twists that are just wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are disturbing to me.
Now, the Birds in my generation was the great kind of horror.
It was, yeah.
Do you have that kind of...
That and Psycho.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so...
Psycho was old. I thought Birds was much earlier than Psycho, right?
I don't know. I feel like they both during
because Hitchcock...
I don't know.
Because Hitchcock was doing movies between black and white and color. Like he was in that transition. Yeah. But he did it long enough. I remember being at Universal Studios because Hitchcock made a 3D movie back when 3D was all the rage. But by the time he got it done, 3D had gone out. Oh. And so I don't think anybody ever really saw it in 3D. And at Universal Studios, when I was a kid, they showed it in 3D. You had the glasses and everything. And it's wild. You got like logs flying at you. You got birds flying around in the theater. Ew. It was wild. Loved it.
But that was just a legendary movie for people who may not have heard of it. Everyone knew about The Birds. That was the famous scary movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's scary in a different way than horror today. Like horror today, they're coming at you with chainsaws. This is not what...
du Maurier is very psychological in her. Mm-hmm. It's not like aliens invading. It's not monsters.
No, it's literally people that are twisted.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Yes. But you just read Flannery O'Connor, The Violent Fear of the Way. So, I mean, you've gone from really odd to really odd.
To even more odd.
No, was it on the podcast with Kathy where we talked about the fact that like Flannery O'Connor makes sense to us because we actually know people that differ in degree, but some other thing. And I just ran into somebody the other day and I thought, you're out of a Flannery O'Connor novel. I mean, just difference of degree again, but just like similar things.
Interesting.
It's the world we live in.
It is.
Yeah. So you've been reading Martin. Anything else?
Well, yes. So I'm also rereading Brideshead Revisited for the last Crescent Hill book group of the year. It's my third read through.
Yeah.
And I just love most of what Evelyn Waugh has written. But there are some that I don't like. But this one, I really think this is his masterpiece. But I also still feel like as a Protestant, I struggle I'm still struggling, even though it's my third read. And this time I went into it thinking, I'm going to read this with more of a Catholic understanding. And I just can't really get there. I have so many questions. I just,
we did it for book club once, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, maybe the first time I read it, or maybe that was the second time. I don't know. This is my third time through. I still am enjoying it thoroughly. And it hasn't been that many years in between. But there's just something about it that it just feels like a comfortable read, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe you're more familiar with it at this point?
Well, I mean, I know the story now, but I'm really looking for a better understanding of the whole premise, I think.
Well, Martin?
Well, when Michael Connelly comes out with a novel, I put everything else down and I read it. So he just came out with his second Catalina novel. He's got the Bosch series. He's got the Lincoln Lawyer series. And then this is the second of the Catalina series because he's a cop. He's on the outs with leadership in the department. So they send him to Catalina where nothing is happening. And the motto of the book is small island, big crime. And I'm thinking these poor people in Catalina who actually live on Catalina Island, because Catalina Island, for the people who don't know, it's offshore of Los Angeles in California. And we used to go over there on sailboats and just
hang out
in one of the bays over there and just hike and stuff. But and I've never been to Avalon, which is the city there. It's not really a city, but it's a small town, really. So anyway, it's just got all the elements of Michael Connelly. I just love a good police procedural. It's an excellent one.
You need to read Peter Lovesey.
Peter Lovesey?
Yes, his books are based in Bath. Peter Diamond is his
Okay, this is not a parlor mystery.
No.
Okay.
This is a police procedural.
Okay.
And he is in the police force in Bath. I think you would really love those books.
Well, it is really an art to tell a story where somebody's trying to figure something out and for the clues to come at just the right time in the narrative.
Sure.
That is a trick. And a lot of people try to do that and they don't do it very well. But Michael Connelly's an absolute master of this.
I read a Bosch book once.
That's your problem. You don't read them repeatedly.
Yes, and dull your senses to the point that you're happy with what you have.
I may try it again. I don't know.
I'm reading two things right now that I started over the weekend. One is, I'll finish it because it's enjoyable. Maggie O'Farrell's, the book before Hamnet. It's called A Marriage Portrait, and it's the story of Lucrezia de Medici. It's really good. It's really good. I like it. The second book, and I would like to maybe put it out to the people of podcast land. Should I finish this? I picked up Anthony Doerr's Cloud Cuckoo Land.
Yes.
He put it out after All the Light We Cannot See. They're not linked in any way. It's just his next novel.
I tried that once because I think Josie Stamps wanted me to read it.
Oh, Josie likes it?
Well, I don't think she liked it. She
Okay.
wanted somebody else to read it and
She wanted to talk about it.
Josie,
about it.
Call me.
And you told me not to read it.
So it's
You told me I would not like it.
It's
because I loved
five-
All the Light We Cannot See.
This is nothing like it.
Right.
It's 5 different people, but then so you've got 5 different points of view. They're all at 5 different points on the timeline of humanity. So you've got like ancient, futuristic, one person lives on a spaceship in the future. But then within that, 2 of the characters, you slide back and forth on the continuum of their life from childhood to old age. So you've got 7 timelines across the broader timeline of the world to keep up with. And they're pretty like poppy, like they come in and out. And I'm starting to wonder, because in the beginning I thought, if anybody can thread the needle here, it's Anthony Doerr. He's such a phenomenal writer. However, I'm starting to kind of wonder, is this one of those books that there's like a meta theme, like there's something that lays over the top of it, and it's a puzzle that he wants the reader to figure out? I don't know. I don't know if I'm up for that. Do I want a puzzle?
That's my precise problem with modern literature.
Wait, what is your
Just that it's a intentionally designed puzzle that you're supposed to figure out, And if you don't figure out the puzzle, then you're left completely befuddled by what any of this means.
Well, would a mystery story count? As
No,
one of them?
no,
Okay,
no.
you're talking about something else.
No, this is like, so it was what is that book that Fleur had me read that had 3 different.
Oh, I don't remember, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
I know I talked about it in prior
So
episodes.
they sort of scatter the pieces around and then you have to put them together. Okay.
Yeah. And like the one I read, it was.
The author has to do that for you. That's the thing.
Yeah. The one I read, it was like 3 different tellings of the same story from different perspectives. And but also that wasn't how it was marketed, right? So they don't say like, this is a foray into subjectivity or something. Sure. It's like this, no, you've got this one story that you're being told. But so I had all of a sudden when it flipped to the second one, I'm like, what in the world's going on? And then when it did that, I was like, this is still like, and I got a third, it just was, it's a similar sort of thing.
Sure. I got
of that
you.
Jumping back and forth.
So should I finish it?
No.
Did anybody? so many people that I respect their reading and their writing. They're professionals in the field. They're like, I put it down.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. I had lunch on Saturday with a friend who was a writer her whole professional career, and she was like, I put that down. I was like, oh, okay. Kaylee didn't finish it. I talked to her about it. She was like, I put that down.
And she's a big reader.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway.
This is my problem. I am so reticent to pick up a book by an author who I have not read before. I get it. The Michael Connelly, what has he got? 20, 30 novels. It's like putting on an old shoe. It's comfortable. Whereas it's such a...
It's hard to start a new
I only have so much
author.
time. I want to make sure it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, put it down.
Okay.
I mean, if you're not looking forward to picking it back up, it's not worth your time.
No.
Unless it's a classic text.
Well, I always give a book. So Catherine told me last week she'd never been able to get through Brideshead. And I said, well, how far did you get? Well, she'd only read chapter 1. So I said, well, okay, pick it back up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to give a book 100 pages.
Yeah.
Yes.
50 at the very least. Sure. But if you're 100 pages in and you're not attached.
Yeah, about a quarter through.
Because, This Is Happiness by Niall Williams, I wasn't wild about it. I mean, it was beautifully written. But I did keep going and when I got 100 pages in, I really wanted to finish it. And I look forward to picking it back up.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it wasn't my favorite writing style, it was still compelling. Mm-hmm. And so if this isn't compelling to you, put it down.
That was that. I had that experience with that book of Thomas Cranmer. Was that the one?
Stoner?
No. The one set in Henry VIII's time.
Hilary Mantel.
Yes. And I read like 200 pages of that and finally put it down.
Yes, because I fussed at you for putting it down. And then when you told me you'd read 200 pages, I was like, okay, you gave it a good shot.
That's funny.
That's right.
Oh. Well, today's episode is a mailbag, and we've got quite a few questions to get through. So let's get to it. The first question is from Stephen. And Stephen says, I work at a classical primary school where I teach Latin, among other subjects, based in Edinburgh, Scotland. This is my question for you. How important is it for pupils to understand the rationale behind the education they are receiving? I often get asked by my pupils why we bother with studying Latin and other classical subjects, which they see as not directly useful to their future. However, when I try to give explanations for why we study Latin, they either can't fully appreciate the answer or get more confused by it. Should I try and explain the rationale behind classical education? If so, how? Or do I simply ask them to trust that their teachers know what they're doing? Best wishes.
That's
Stephen.
a great question.
It is.
I found it interesting because he said he's at a primary school, and I think he's writing from Europe, which is a little different from what we mean by primary school, but still, I don't think at that age they need to know. I think the administration needs to be working on helping the parents understand why they're doing what they're doing.
That's an excellent point.
At that age, I think I bemoan when our high schoolers don't understand what they're doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
there is a difference between in the younger years. They just need to do it. Mm-hmm. They don't need to understand it. I mean, if nobody could ever explain to me why I had to do math, but I still had to do math, and that's what really irritates me about Latin is people. They'll come up to us and say, well, we're not going to do Latin this year because my child really hates it. Well, what if your child hated math? You would do that. So Latin is just as essential as math to your child's education, but they don't need to know why. Now,
Yes.
with Latin, it's a little easier because when you start pointing out derivatives, it really does show them how the English language is connected to Latin, but they're still not really going to understand all the benefits, and they don't need to. But you're right. By high school, they shouldn't come out of high school not know. And we haven't done as great a job at that as we should do at our own school of making sure that our students do know why they have had this curriculum.
Yeah, and it's only going to be when they're older when they are really going to be asking that question themselves. Because when you're young, you take everything for granted. You just assume, because you don't know the reasons for anything that you're studying. So why do you need to know the reason for that one? The parents, yeah, but not the
You
kid.
do have to get parents buy-in. They do need to understand it.
And I think for younger students, the key is the passion of the teacher.
Yes.
Is if the teacher's passionate about it, the students don't stop to ask, why am I doing this? They're just like,
That's an
that
excellent
looks
point.
awesome.
That's an
Well,
excellent
my theory is no child is going to think to ask that because they've never been to school before. They don't know that most schools don't teach Latin. They're not even going to.
That's a very fascinating point, because when I moved schools in 8th grade and they were trying to place everybody in Latin, and it was a boarding school, and I looked around and said, wait, you all haven't been doing Latin for the past 5 years?
Yeah, see?
You know, like,
You just take it for granted.
Yeah, I
You
think
don't
when
even
my
think to
kids
ask the question.
recognized it, they were mad.
yeah, yes. There is a moment of purification when you realize that not everybody was doing it.
That's funny. Well, this next one, the listener did not give us her name, but she is responding to, a couple weeks or months ago, we answered someone's question about read-aloud books. And do you let your students have the books before their grade level, or do you hold them back and save them? And I wanted to just offer her opinion. She says that she does the opposite. We suggested, hey, just let the kids enjoy them whenever they want. And she does not do that. She says, I keep our MP books aside, and my children get so excited about the new book that they're going to read as our story time part of school. I keep them separate from the family library. It's wonderful to have some fresh new titles for them to be excited about and for them to see as a special part of the school day. After we complete a year's set of books, then I might incorporate them into our family library. And I thought that was just
That's great.
worth including.
Yes, and it's just one more reminder that when you homeschool, you have the flexibility to do anything you really want to with your read-aloud books, and there's no wrong answer.
No.
So I think it's great that she, because maybe we were really one-sided about, yes, just let them have them, and we really didn't discuss the idea that if you do keep them, they are new books then for the students.
Well, we would always, and actually we do this with our grandchildren now, we rotate the books
them.
because we don't have room for all the books we have. So anyway, so you just, you put some in the box and then 6 months later you switch them out
Right.
and there's new books there and
Yeah.
they're new to them.
That's fun.
Well, this next one is for Martin to read.
For me to read.
Yes,
To me to read out
just
loud.
read the question.
Hi. Just want you to know that my husband voluntarily began Emma M. Lyon. Why am I reading this? And has positively
You'll
loved
see.
it. What?
going.
He's in book 4. He passed on book 1 to someone else, passed on book 1 to someone else and said, sorry about the coffee stain on one page. I spit out my coffee laughing. My books are not stained in such a way. And it may not count, but the lady at my local bookstore who also recommended Emma M. Lyon said her husband read them and loved them. I love your podcast, and Tanya, you're my, I don't know if I can read this, you're my favorite. But I love you all, of course. See? And listening to the podcast makes me feel like I'm sitting and listening to my friend's chat.
Okay, there you go.
You don't need to have your...
We say this every time, but
I'm going to frame this and put it at Martin's desk.
then it would be at my desk, but that's okay.
Okay, I am so happy to see that a man has read and likes Emma M. Lyon, and I think this is a challenge.
It's so good.
Sarah's husband is challenging you all to at least give it a try. Thank you for writing it down. And listen, if Joyce hasn't read them, she needs to. I'm going to ask her.
My summer reading is full.
No.
Yes.
Get the
Yes, it
audiobook.
is.
Get the audiobook. It's so good. Have you done the audiobooks?
No, but everybody
so I'm doing
says
those
it.
now.
Really?
I've already read the books, and I'm hoping book 9 comes back. When they're just, like you said earlier, like putting on an old shoe. They are just so entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Are these
I do not find putting an old shoe on entertaining, but
when were they read?
She's writing them now,
contrarian.
but they're set in 1880 something.
Okay. Well, you got your summer challenge, gentlemen.
Let's be clear about this. I have a stack of books that for work I have to read.
This should go on top.
Okay, look, our editorial director said so.
It should be, this is not your stack of for work, but your entertainment.
I'm just saying, I don't think I'm going to have time for entertainment given what I need to read to keep up with
Okay, I'll make a deal.
the guys.
Okay.
Okay, I'll read this book on your recommendation, and then you have to read a book on my recommendation.
Which I do all the time.
Okay, good.
You got me started on James Lee Burke.
Huh?
I read just about everything you recommend to me. I can't remember not reading something you have recommended.
I shouldn't have brought
I
this
read
up. And I
Lonesome
feel even more
Dove.
obligated to read Emma.
That's right.
Yes.
Read Emma.
That's right.
You and Joyce would
I
love
really
it if you
think
have a
you will
road trip.
like them.
Okay.
All right. Next question. This is from Melanie. And she says, now classically educating my children, I've been exposed to the virtues and would love a little more insight on them. For example, what is the difference between the virtues and the fruit of the Spirit? Are the virtues just another way of talking about the fruit of the Spirit, or are virtues behaviors that even non-believers can cultivate? Thanks for considering these questions. I thought that was an excellent question.
That was almost
insightful.
requires some just little mini research just to answer that question.
Well, and I was thinking, wow, this is going to make us pull out our theology. But I think we could do it simply.
I think so.
Just that I want to take this down the route of the theological and cardinal virtues,
Mm-hmm.
which the theological virtues, faith, hope, and love. And they're theological because they, I don't want to be too trite about this. I want to say begin and end in God, but that's, I don't want to go deep in that, but those are gifts from God. Whereas the cardinal virtues of prudence, fortitude, temperance, and justice were first actually
Aristotle
codified and by the ancient Greeks. And so those are recognized as perfections of human capacities. Is that right? So
moral capacities.
yeah. So fortitude being sort of the perfection of the will, right? That you have courage to do that, and temperance. Also, I don't. The division. I'm going to flub on the division because I haven't done my research, as Martin said. It's been a while. But both of those have to do with the will, right? Because fortitude is courage, going to do something. Temperance is moderation of saying, I'm not going to go too far or too short in doing something. And then prudence is let me go to justice, actually. Justice is the perfection of giving to the other their due. And which would, I guess, justice falls into a bit of the will and a bit of the intellect. And then prudence is the perfection of reason applied to action.
Would you say one of the main differences between those lists of virtues and the fruits of the Spirit that we get in the New Testament are their origin? Like maybe a believer, a born-again believer would say a Christian is able to exercise the fruits of the Spirit in their life because of the work of the Spirit enabling them and enacting them to do that. Whereas, so their origin is from this new life in the Spirit, and then the origin of the virtues you listed would be from the inner person.
That the fruits of the Spirit are from God, and the classical virtues are inherent in us. They're perfections of who we are as we are made. Now, those go back to God too, because we're made in the image of God. Yeah. But they're coming from different directions.
Yeah, fundamentally, I think it's a distinction between like natural grace and supernatural grace, right? That God creating us and our natures, there's certain things he's given to us, whether we believe in him or not. And then there's the supernatural that he gives us as living in his life, right? That are gifted to us. And yes, I think that's the distinction. And so us trying in a formation of the youth context to say, you need to learn how to be just to one another. You need to learn how to make prudent decisions. You need to learn how to live in moderation and be courageous. Those are things that no matter what students we're teaching, those are things that are naturally inherent to humans, but it's a matter of formation of teaching them this is a thing you do again and again and again, and showing them different scenarios where you might apply this or you might apply that, and et cetera. But, generosity is not a classical virtue, right?
But that's so.
Well, now Aristotle does talk about, is it magnificence? Or
magnanimity?
I'm sorry, magnanimity. He does talk about magnanimity.
Yeah, but
and that involves that, right?
I think generosity is goes beyond that.
It's you're doing it for the sake of another.
And so I think that's where and this is where if we dug into this, I would hope that we could see clearly in the fruits of the Spirit versus the classical virtues that the fruits of the Spirit are things that, generally speaking, are humans do not do
on their own.
So, but there is some overlap. I think there is. I don't have a list of the fruits of the Spirit in front of me, but I feel.
Well, we can, come on, guys. We can recite love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control.
The only one I could think of was patience.
Which is ironic.
And also these for Aristotle, most in the Nicomachean Ethics, which I'm also reading right now, forgot to mention that. In the Nicomachean Ethics, he talks about how most of the virtues are means between extremes. Not all of them. Courage, for example, is not. But faith, hope, the theological virtues, there are not means between extremes, as I understand them. They're just what
they're
they
extremes.
Yeah, they're extremes. Extremely good.
Well, thank you for the question, Melanie. It was a good one. This next podcast email is from Courtney, and it's a book suggestion. We get a lot of these, so I wanted to make sure to include them in today's mailbag. She says, hello, I love classical, etc., and watch every week. I read a fun book last year called Rembrandt in the Wind by Russ Ramsey.
Rembrandt is in the wind.
Sorry, thank you. By Russ Ramsey. I'm a mom of 6 little kids, and I blitzed through it. This book is a mix of some of my favorite reads. It's both historical and Christian living. And she says, I didn't know much about art history going into it and wanted to grow. Have a great week, Courtney. And I really appreciated this suggestion. I looked it up on Amazon because I hadn't heard of it. And it looks awesome. I haven't read it, but I saw that the foreword is by I'm going to get his name wrong, Makoto Fujimura, who is, I don't know if anybody follows art, Christian artists, but he is a painter and he is phenomenal. His work is stunning, and but he also writes about art and a theology of art. He has several lovely books and obviously many, many famous paintings. And he wrote the foreword to this book, which I thought was fascinating. So if he's involved, I would like to check it out.
And he's an artist.
That's exactly right. So
would this be what age child? Would this be for?
No, I think
is
this
it
is
for adults.
It's for adults. Yeah, it looks like
okay. So
like understanding art.
Oh, nice.
From a Christian perspective, that's what it looked like. Because she says it was historical and about Christian living, but it looked lovely. So I wanted to say, Courtney, thank you.
I feel like I've heard of that.
I know. When I looked it up, it looked familiar.
Russ Ramsey, that name sounds familiar to me, but I don't know why.
The next question is from Sharon. Can you give a review of utilizing the Yoto player and audio readers for children?
I remember, I think, looking at this when this question first came in, and these are the ones where, if I remember correctly, it's like a little device and you can put a card in, and then it will read that
like
story to you.
Kind of like your Geo Safari thing.
I mean, in a way, I think it's a very low tech way to, where instead of like whipping out Audible on your phone and having them read,
are they seeing the words at the same time? No. So it's just really like Audible, which we are not against.
Yes, but I could see in a kid context, because my nieces and nephews, like if my sister puts something on her phone and walks away, they go
anything could happen,
and
right?
then they move to a different something
and this
they're listening
you can
to.
control because you've got cards.
Mm-hmm.
So our I think our main point is always somebody needs to still be reading. They need that human interaction of somebody reading to them, but to encourage them to read audibly is also a wonderful thing.
It's not a substitute, but it's a very good complement.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's
put
a
it
good way
on
to
when
say
they're
it.
going to sleep.
Yes. And
Okay.
she wanted some recommendations for cards, but I don't.
They've got
understand.
modern and classic books.
I'd say stick to the classic. It's safe.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't give a child any modern book without reading it first.
Yeah, my grandchildren do this all the time, and it's great. But it doesn't.
Oh, do they have that Yodo thing?
No, they don't have the Yodo thing. They just have probably an Audible book.
Oh, okay.
And they play those all the time, and they listen, and they'll when they're cleaning their room, and
Right, because it encourages them to continue to read and have story in their lives.
Absolutely.
Nice. Well, thank you, Sharon. This next email is from Mandy, and she is responding to our episode from 2024 where we did a book club discussion on The Chosen. You remember that?
Oh.
Yes.
It was,
My goodness.
that was a while ago, but she wrote us just recently, and she said, I finally made it back around to watch the episode from 2024 on The Chosen, and that's the Potok book. At the time, I had picked it up, and then she listened to it on Audible. And she says, I have so many comments about the book, especially as it relates to the pronunciation of words and customs of that culture, because we talked quite a bit about it. And in her email, she goes on to explain the ways we should have pronounced it, which I appreciated. She says, I laughed to myself as I realized I was answering y'all's questions or correcting the pronunciation and then realizing that no one was listening. I had to restart the episode so I could start answering or commenting on a few things. So she goes on in her email to just give her commentary on the book, which was so well done. So thank you, Mandy.
Oh, there's a good comment down there at the bottom.
Yeah. She says, I do believe Paul is mostly right about the title of the book. I think it's more about the Jewish people as the chosen ones, but less about progressing forward and more about the Jews from all over the world, regardless of ideologies. So yeah, she does give a lot of different commentaries in her email, which was so helpful. At the end, she says, I hope some of this sheds light on the book and what y'all understood from it. It was a great episode. Feel free to email me back if there's any other lingering questions about it.
How nice of her to take the time to do this.
It was wonderful. And I know I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed talking about it with
love that book.
with
I
you.
even
It was
read
really
the
good.
next one. I loved it so much.
What's the one about the younger boy that Potok does?
Asher Lev?
Yes, Asher.
That's
My name
not
is
my
Asher Lev.
favorite.
Really?
That was, you liked it better
I
than
love that one.
My name is Asher Lev.
Right.
It's
on my list.
It's much more about art.
Right.
Yes,
the-
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the next question. This is from Ashley. She says, hello, Core 4. One thing I've been wrestling with is how to do more schooling and learning together as a family. My kids are 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm pregnant with number 5. So I'm hearing that Ashley's kind of busy. She says, I don't want to mess she doesn't want to mess up, but she would love to do more family style where she can, understanding that certain subjects, they'll likely be at their own pace. But knowing that she's going to ultimately have 5 different grades, are there any ways that she can do more things together with the children?
I mean, for us, reading aloud. I mean, we did it, during the day with whatever book they were reading for as part of coursework, and then at night before they went to bed, and then I read around the dinner table. So that was the thing that we and my wife will tell you that's the best thing we ever did. I don't know how you do other things. I mean,
Well,
education family style is what homeschooling is.
Well, it is, but there are, we've got I think people get hung up on our cores that say when you're in kindergarten, you should do this. And when you're in first grade, you do this. So everybody's doing something different. And her children are so young. When the thing she can do together through second grade is going to be the enrichment part of the program, which is the Read-Aloud book and the history lesson and the science lesson and the art and poetry and music. After that, she says she's going to do, I think, science with 3rd through 5th together. Totally fine. The thing you have to be careful of is that when your oldest child is getting ready to move forward into more difficult subjects, you've got at that point to let that child do their curriculum, because you are preparing. Physical science in the 8th grade is preparing that child for upper level science courses. You don't want to wait for math. You've got to, if you want to get through high school math, you've got to be prepped for that. But right now she's got a lot of years where she can do some things together easily, pretty easily. That's my only caution is at some point, those older children have got to do some preparation to be ready to do what they need to do in high school.
That makes sense.
Bible
you can do it with
memory
some
versus
subjects, but not others.
Yeah, Bible memory verses also comes to mind.
Oh,
something
sure.
the family can do
And
together.
in Christian studies, really,
That's a good
you
point.
can do for years and years together. And then, and even, Dolaire's Greek myths you can do as a family. But,
And when the oldest one's getting in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, right? If you're reading like Greek myths or Famous Men of Rome, the younger ones will sit
are
and listen,
listening. Yes,
Absolutely.
and that preps them for when they get to it.
that's right.
Okay. One or two more. We've got a question from Brad. He says, I'm wondering how you all as Christians think through the taking of the Lord's name in vain in literature. It seems to be more prevalent in 20th century American literature. And he gives John Steinbeck as an example. And he says, I know there are all kinds of sins mentioned and committed by characters. However, this one seems to stand out to him more than others. I was just curious to hear your thoughts and how you think through.
That one really bothers me. The Lord's name in vain is the one thing that really, like when I'm reading, and Steinbeck is bad about it. And I just kind of skip over it. I mean, I literally I don't like to hear it and I don't like to read it. We would never recommend Steinbeck for even a high schooler.
I was forced to read so much in high school, and it was too much.
It's too much. Thematically, it's too much.
Yeah.
The language is too much. So it does bother me, but it doesn't mean I don't read books that have that language in it. But, a lot of the books I read really don't, because I'm not reading a lot of modern lit, and it's just not there in Dickens and Austen and George Eliot. I mean, the people that I love and that I read repeatedly, they're not using words like that. And I love it in the old books when even a word that's not that bad, like sod, or, and they'll just put an S with a line and not even print it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those books were serialized. And so they were in magazines. We should go back to that. We should go back to not printing those things. I don't like to look at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you something like East of Eden or one of the Steinbeck books, I think the question is whether, reading it as an adult, whether it's gratuitous or not. And what I mean is the character may be using it gratuitously, and usually is, but is the author writing it gratuitously into the person's mouth? And, like you remarked, there's all kinds of sin in these books. A good novel is usually not very good unless it has sin in it. You know what I'm saying?
It's what creates the conflict.
Yeah, it creates conflict. And so, it seems to me the same kind of thing. And so you could just pass your eye right by that word and you don't have to think it really necessarily. But if it's true to the world in which the story is being written, which is a sinful world, then that's part
It doesn't mean don't read East of Eden for sure.
Oh no, I think
I feel like that
Yes. A lot
influence.
worse things in there to me than that, really. I mean, it's,
Right. It doesn't, but it does mean keep it away from children.
yeah. Because the problem with that is for many people, that's a habit. That language becomes a habit. And so as long as you're,
I don't like it in movies.
Yeah,
I just don't like it. It really makes me cringe. Why are you smiling like that?
I think about this completely differently.
okay. So
Oh,
how do you?
my goodness.
All right, Paul.
This I
Go.
didn't anticipate.
Because the commandment of not taking the Lord's name in vain, in my experience, what actually makes that egregious is not the language, but is in fact using a position of a spiritual authority to hurt in a way that hurts the other person. So you're acting in the name of God and you hurt the other person, right? And so it's that taking of the name
representation.
That's the whole problem with it.
And so it doesn't bother me at all when I hear it, when I see it, that language doesn't bother me. What really bothers me is when somebody is explicitly trying to take a position of spiritual authority in God's name and hurting the people below them. And so I'm not saying that you should use it gratuitously or anything. I don't, and I don't like it when it happens. But it's like water off a duck's back when it hits me, because I've experienced that whole context or that whole the trespassing of that commandment in a very different way than just the language. We focus on the language, but I think it's meant to be more
because
than
if
that.
you think about it, I seriously doubt if what they were thinking about when they were talking about this in the scriptures was the placing of God's name before the D word. I don't think that's even the kind of thing they're talking about.
But
So
every time I hear it, that's what I think. Is that
interesting.
somebody that somebody is actually taking upon themselves that authority.
Really?
Yes. Every time I hear it, that's what to me is the definition of it. And so when it comes
'Cause what
out of
is Vane
anybody's
referring to?
mouth, I think, ugh.
what is Vane referring to? Vanity. That's where that word comes from. Vanity. What is that?
I think it's evil.
Interesting. I'm not trying to say it's not evil. I just that maybe I'm inured to it. I don't know, but
Interesting take. Well, thanks, Brad, for the question. That was a good one.
Didn't think that one.
I love
Didn't think
this
the one
one.
on swearing was going to go that long.
Okay, well, let's fit in one more. This is from Bonnie, and the subject of her email is mailbag question, pick me, in all caps. So Bonnie, thank you for helping us close out this episode.
by now because we're 40 minutes
She's not even
in.
listening to us anymore because we have neglected her for so
Come
long.
back, Bonnie. She says, hello. I have a friend who says comprehension questions steal the joy in reading. We looked at your Charlotte's Web guides as a sample together. She says it is teaching a child to read a book analytically.
That's right.
And that the student misses the overall valuable point of why the author wrote the book, which is what helps shape the child. I love Memoria Press curriculum, but I'm just starting out in kindergarten, so I'm not sure how to feel about it yet. So what do we say to someone who says the reading comprehension questions in our guides steal the joy in reading?
They come to one of our classrooms.
I know. I don't need. Why? How do they do that?
Because we are teaching the child to read analytically. That's not a bad thing, but we are also teaching a child to have joy in the story.
You're drawing their attention to something that they may miss. Mm-hmm. That's what, you're making sure that they're getting everything out of the reading. Now, if you want to take that and you want to rephrase that in a less formal way, but the questions are prompts to direct the child's attention to something they need to know in that passage.
And then great discussions come out of those.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I was recently in a classroom, well, I don't guess it was that recently, where they were discussing something in Charlotte's Web, and it was just a wonderful conversation. But the guide the problem with it is I think people look at our guides and they think we're handing them to a child and saying, go do this work. Mm-hmm. And that is not the intention of those guides. Those are to generate discussion, conversation.
It's collaborative.
To teach a child how to contemplate what they're reading. Mm-hmm. That is the goal. And so that goal can be missed if you don't use the guides correctly. I understand that it would be nice if you're homeschooling more than one child, to be able to hand them the guide and say, go do this while I work with, the kindergarten student, which you have to do sometimes. But at some point, you have got to come back to that child and do the discussion.
Yeah.
You have nothing to say.
There's always
You've got these
something
odd
to
looks
say.
on your
Well,
face.
the other thing too is like, particularly if you're reading fiction, you don't necessarily, you do want them just to read it, and then after
they
you've
are
done
doing,
what they're
though.
doing, and the questions are just going back to the reading and asking you to take a look at something that's in that passage, which they may have missed or just not thought about.
Mhm.
It's not a bad thing to think about what you're reading, and that's what those questions do.
Since Tanya wants something a little different
Well, I'm just
from
looking
me,
at the looks on your faces.
Yeah, he's been really
Yeah.
kind of off in the stratosphere
looking
on
at
answering
us.
these questions today, and it's been really interesting.
I've participated in discussions outside of a classroom, right? Just with other adults. And people will opine about a text and never be able to point to you where in the text it said that. And sometimes I've challenged people to say, there is no way that's in that text. You show me where it says that in the text. Martin and I have done that to each other, actually. But it is not a given that somebody in learning to read is actually pulling out what's in there. And that's what those comprehension questions are for.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back to what you said, Tanya, right? Like you walk into the classrooms, there's joy, but I can totally see in a school or a homeschool context that students that push back, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. And then it just becomes pulling teeth, grating on each other. And that's why it goes back to that question we had about, do students need to know why they're doing what they're doing? And that's why I brought up passion, right? Like I can clearly go back to times when I was homeschooled where I was like, I don't understand why this is important at all, but mom's really passionate about it. And over time that I can't say that I didn't give her grief for it at the time, but it did rub off on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you're forcing them to sit down and against their wishes, and you haven't prepped the soil, you haven't gotten them ready and excited for this story. Yeah, the comprehension questions might kill their desire to read it. And it's just a matter of how you orchestrate that.
Right.
So that they enjoy doing that and then they learn from it.
That's why that's one reason that we are so, we just are constantly talking about a teacher-directed class, that the teacher is a part of the conversation all the time. Mm-hmm. I know it's not easy. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. It's one of the hardest jobs I had was being in a teacher-directed classroom.
Oh, it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're on all the time, but we would say it's necessary.
And some kids get what we're trying to get them to accomplish to those questions on their own. I met some homeschoolers, and I think they educated themselves and did a pretty good job of it. Because they didn't need the actual instruction as much as, particularly when they were older, I think, but not every child is that way. And even that child can use some prompts to I hadn't thought about that question.
Oh, both of mine, especially my oldest, he would have just breezed through Charlotte's Web and never thought a thing about it, just move on to the next thing.
Sure.
If he weren't forced to actually sit down and contemplate it.
And, somebody could make the argument, well, I don't do that as an adult. Well, the reason you don't do that as an adult, if you're a good reader, is because you do it automatically.
But we do. I think when we mark our books, we are doing that as an adult.
I was thinking a little more of fiction there, but yeah, nonfiction.
But
certainly
even
there
fiction,
are some tools.
you don't mark your fiction books. Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Why
would I mark a fiction book?
Brideshead Revisited, you have not.
No.
You have not marked.
Absolutely not.
You don't mark up?
You mark your fiction books?
Yes.
Wow, I'm surprised Martin doesn't mark his fiction books.
It's not. I mean, it's just a great quote or something.
Do you know if
I would never mark anything in Michael Connelly.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
but would you
not
mark in Wendell Berry or Charles Dickens or Shakespeare?
Well, Wendell's more of a meditative writer, even in his fiction. So I think probably I have marked a few things in his books, but not in.
Well,
I am really shocked.
We might have.
I mean, there might be there. Okay, so there's certain passages which I might put a little tab in there or whatever.
So
but
those are passages that you've contemplated.
Yeah,
there's a reason
there's not that many in a fiction book.
All right. Well, this may have to wait till our next episode. Bonnie, who knew that we would
take back all the good things she said about me at the beginning of the show?
Did I say good things?
Yes, you did, and we're going to mark it. I'm going to get the recording.
I said I liked your essays, but it was, I think, before we started.
Oh, was it? Okay. So you didn't say it for
Bonnie,
the show.
We are thankful for the question and all of the trails that we pursued after it. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who writes us at podcast@memoriapress.com. We hope we can fit all your questions in, either in an episode or a mailbag. Keep writing us. We will keep answering. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next time.
Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.